Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Welcome to the last day of the preschool conference. This morning, we have an exciting student panel. We have 4 students who are going to be kind of doing round robins, asking questions. And really, the purpose of this panel, in my mind, is for the students to kind of share their experiences, and I know that everybody's experiences are a little bit different, but I think in the hopes of helping parents and families and youngsters to learn about maybe expectations and what they can maybe expect as they go through school. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of ask a question, go around, have everybody answer it, and then if people have questions related to that, they can ask questions, and then we'll go on to the next question. And I believe we have like well over an hour for the session, so. So welcome, students.
Thanks for having us.
Morning, Elias.
Happy to be here.
Ethan, are you here? Kenzie. How about we go around and you guys introduce yourselves and just tell a little bit maybe about yourself, where you're from, what grade you're in, and start it that way.
Okay, I'll go first then. Hello, everybody. My name is Elias. I am just about to be 18. I, of course, am in my senior year, and I've been going to the School for the Blind in Janesville ever since 4th grade.
My name is Ethan. I've just recently started the CCR transitional program at the Wisconsin School for the Blind. I'm 17, turning 18 pretty soon here, and I'm from the Toma, Sparta area of Wisconsin.
I forgot to mention I'm from Milwaukee.
I'm gonna be 16 and I'm from Delavan. I go to Delavan area.
I'm Evie. I am 16 years old. I'm a sophomore. I'm from Baraboo, but I go to Portage High School.
Thank you, everybody. Why don't we go around again and if you could just tell a little bit about your vision and if you're a Braille or print reader, to give the audience a little sense of how you're doing things.
Okay, so my vision condition is optic nerve hypoplasia. I'm nearsighted. I cannot see detail. It's probably like anybody that's in the back there, I can't see you. But I can see some of the ones that are up front here. I am a large print reader, but I do some Braille. I mostly do a lot of my reading or work electronically.
My vision condition is degenerative glaucoma. I was born with it, and over the course of my life, my vision has slowly deteriorated. Right now, I have light perception and very minimal color perception. So, if a person is standing in front of a window, I can see the silhouette, but I would not be able to know who it is unless they speak.
I have close up but not far away, and I can't see at all in the dark.
I have optic nerve hypoplasia and septo-optic nerve dysplasia. I can see light versus dark, and I can see shadows, but I can't see any colors or shapes or anything like that. I read Braille.
Thank you. So Evie, you said you read Braille. Elias, are you Braille print both?
Yeah, both. I use large print more than I use braille.
Okay, and when did you start learning Braille?
About like just after kindergarten, so about first grade. I stopped for 2 years and then continued when I got to school for the blind.
Okay. Ethan, what about you?
I'm a Braille reader. I started learning back in 5th grade roughly, and have been pretty consistent since then.
Okay. See,
I'm a Braille reader. I started learning when I was 3 and never stopped.
okay. Um. What do you like about school or the placement where you're going to school? What do you like about that?
So for me, since I've been, so we'll start with the early school I can remember really. I went to school in Milwaukee from kindergarten to first grade. I found it to be okay. When we, when I moved to the Waukesha district, again, it was okay, but things really picked up when I got to the school for the blind. I am surrounded by people that I can relate to. Overall, I feel like it's a good experience for me who throughout my entire life, up until before I got to the school, hardly had any contact with anyone that has visual impairment or blindness. So for me, the School for the Blind was a great opportunity, new experiences that I never would have had if I continued to go to the schools from different districts. So overall, I feel like it was just it's been a great experience.
I started off homeschooled up until about 6th grade, where I began going to public school full time. I'm currently as of this year, I'm currently a student at WCBDI, the Wisconsin School for the Blind. But I definitely agree that there's a lot of good resources and it's a really good experience. But I also spend quite a bit of time in the public school system, and it's definitely, I feel like there's benefits to having both sides of things, having that real world experience and being able to build off of it using the skills that the School for the Blind teaches you.
Classes and still be with sighted peers and be able to get as advanced in education as they can. And I also like how I can get what I need and I don't, and I can just do it there.
I like that at my school, so I used to go to school in Baraboo when I was in early childhood and preschool, and that wasn't the best because I only got to see my teacher of the visually impaired twice, like once or twice a week, and I didn't get the services and tools and stuff that I needed. So in kindergarten and ever since then, I've been going to the Portage School District, because they have a better resource program. CISA 5 is in Portage, and they have a resource program, and there's also a few other visually impaired students. And I get to see my teacher of the visually impaired every day of the week, and I get the tools and services that I need there.
Thank you. And just to kind of share the options and placements that exist in Wisconsin, I shared yesterday that I attended a resource room in Milwaukee. That was many years ago. There are very few resource rooms in the state. C5 is one of them in Portage. Evie's teacher happens to be a classmate of mine in elementary school. I believe there's a resource room still in Milwaukee, and there might be one or two, but they're in larger school districts generally, just because in smaller school districts, since blindness and low vision is such a low incidence disability, there's maybe one or two or three kids at a school. So teachers of the visually impaired are called itinerant, meaning they drive around a lot to go to various schools. So somebody who works for CISA may visit 5, 10, 20 school districts in a week. So that's kind of the difference in the options. As Evie said, like with me, when I was first through 6th grade, I had contact in a good amount of time with the resource teacher on a daily basis. When I transferred to middle school and high school, I had an itinerant teacher and saw that teacher maybe once a week or an hour or two. So just kind of giving the spectrum. Does anybody have questions about that?
This is Trisha White. I'm wondering if any of the kids are in any sports at all, or any activities at the school, what that looks like for them. Really great.
Great question.
I have participated in 3 of the 6 different sports at the school. We have track and field at the beginning of the year, then we do goal ball after that. We do have wrestling and cheer. I don't do those, but the season we're currently in right now is for swim and forensics. I am on both teams. And it's, I don't know what it looks like at a school from a specific school district, but I imagine it's pretty similar. We practice in our pool at the school. Right now it's 3 days a week. And we have a meet coming up on Thursday, actually. So we go to a different school in a different state to compete there.
Different school for the blind.
Yes. So then what forensics looks like is basically competitive public speaking. If you guys don't know what forensics is, they travel alongside the swim team, but it's different events, different teams. If you're on the swim team, you don't have to be on the forensics team or vice versa. So that's my experience with it.
Can you explain goal ball?
Yes.
People here.
Yes, so goal ball is like a combination of, I guess you could say, soccer and, I don't know, maybe basketball. You have 3 people on each side wearing blindfolds or like eye shades so that everybody's on an even playing field. So you have a center, a left wing, and a right wing. So what you've got to do is you've got to roll the ball on the ground as hard as you can, try and make it into the other goal. The way you block is you lay out on the ground on your side, whether that's on your left or your right, to try to block the ball with your body. That's the basic gist of goal ball.
How safe is that?
Safe if you know how to cover your face properly.
So you're wearing pads.
Yeah, you wear pads.
The goalball is, for those who don't know, it's a sport that was developed, the only sport that was developed specifically for the blind. And, it has risen to a Paralympic sport, which, Paralympics started, I don't know, maybe 8, 10 years ago, something like that, but basically, people who train for Olympic sports, you know, speed skating, swim, whatever, so, lots and lots of different sports. Paralympics is, sports, many which are the same sports that your non-disabled, Olympic athletes do, except for goalball, that is one that, sighted people do not do. But so Paralympics is specifically for people with disabilities, and it generally takes place a week or 2 weeks after the Olympics in the same location where the Olympics are held. It's pretty high prestigious, I would say, pretty high profile. What was the question you asked, Tricia, if you participated in this?
Yeah, what kind of activities at school do they participate in at school, would be good later?
At the School for the Blind, I participate in forensics, which, as Elias said, is just, it's competitive public speaking. And I don't do any of the other sports, but I have in the past run track and field at my public school. And doing that was on a team full of sighted people, that was definitely a challenge. But essentially, for those of you who don't know, a lot of times, this is what I did. A lot of times there is a guide runner, and then I would be holding on to a tether, which is, so I have a tether wrapped around my wrist, and then my guide has the other end of that tether, and they're holding on to that so that I can actually run. I've done sprints, I've done distance, and you use different size tethers for each of those.
At the school for track, for people that have no sight or very little of it, there are guide wires on the straight part of the track. And there are different events for people that run the guide wires. But just because you have sight, like I do, doesn't mean you can't run those events. You just can't do them running around the whole track.
Tell them about the indoor track.
So in our gymnasium at the school, there is a circular indoor track that's guarded by a railing. It's a pretty nice one. It's raised up so that if something's going on in the gym, you don't get hit by a rogue basketball. Sometimes that does happen. A basketball has gotten onto the track a few times. So, yeah.
In the fall, I participate in swimming, and we use a painting stick, and we put a tennis ball at the end. So when I'm going in to flip at the wall, we have somebody that taps me, so I know when to flip and I don't crash into the wall. And then I do the musicals, and we just have somebody backstage who grabs me on and off stage, because I can't see in the dark behind stage. And then right now I'm in track season, and we use tethers. And I do sprints, so I think we have like a 6 and an 8-inch tether.
Glad they just tapped me with the paint stick. I thought yesterday they hit with.
We do the same thing for swim, is when we get to each end of the pool, there is a tapper that taps you with the same thing Mackenzie was talking about, just that we don't hit our heads on the wall.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop it from happening though.
And just to kind of build on the tether thing a little bit. She said a 6 and an 8-inch. They're for different events, they can have different lengths. Specifically because for me as a both distance and sprinter, I had to use a 6-inch tether for sprints due to the fact that my guide rope had to be in the same lane with me at all times during a sprint, or I got disqualified. During a distance run, you can be in 2 separate lanes, and I used an 18-inch.
I don't participate in any sports. We don't have goal ball at my school, but I have played it like just for like, I do our school, well, outside of our school, I have, my teacher of the visually impaired and her staff, does daily living skills. They lead that, so that's when like we sometimes play goal ball, sometimes we go to, I've gone to beep baseball with them, and that's where the ball beeps, I think, and then like, so then you can hear the ball and you just play baseball and it beeps. In daily living skills, we also have worked on like cooking and playing games, stuff like other stuff like that. Other than that, for school activities, I'm not in sports, but I am in choir, and during concerts, someone usually helps me get to where I need to be. But other than that, I'm not in any other thing.
One thing I forgot to mention for School for the Blind is we have a winter concert or a winter concert / play that we do every year. I wasn't able to be here for this year. I was sick that week, but from years past, it usually takes about a month to 2 months to practice. And then we do it on the day before Christmas break starts. So we'll have the band perform, and we'll also have either a musical. We used to have more serious plays, but in recent years we've kind of switched over to musicals. I find them pretty fun. And then speaking of band, we also do that. There's a spring concert coming up soon, so we're practicing for that. So that's a couple of extra non-sport things.
So the difference kind of is that students who attend the School for the Blind, most of the sports and events that they participate in are organized competing against other schools for the blind. So our students travel to Indiana, Illinois.
Our forensics team is traveling to Illinois this week, and then for NCs, it's Kentucky. And those are both just the state schools for the blind.
And with public schools, as y'all probably know, they all kind of vary depending on how big the school district is and things as far as like what opportunities they have as far as choir and things like that. But there have been some students who attend public schools and then would come to the School for the Blind in Janesville to participate in goal ball, for example. So that has happened. But typically people who are attending public schools are competing, if it's a sport, or participating, if it's some type of event, more with their sighted peers. I know of students who have attended public schools, blind visually impaired students who have participated in marching band, for example. Every once in a while you see in the news somebody who participates in football or different sports. On the East Coast, they're starting hockey for blind people, and I'm not sure if it's rules or not, but, so it's kind of there's a lot of opportunities out there, but unfortunately that they're not everywhere. Yes. And then just as an aside, when I was in high school, I did not participate in any sporting or extracurricular activities, but I did start running later in life, and it just brought it to mind because I finished my first marathon right here in Green Bay and got to run through the tunnel. Got to run through the tunnel in Lambeau at the end of the marathon, which was awesome. Really how I got involved in running was, so I did, when I was in elementary school, I started skiing, downhill skiing. And that was through an organization called BOLD, which is in Milwaukee. It's Blind Outdoor Leisure Development, which that organization still exists, and it's mainly in southeastern Wisconsin. And through that organization, I learned how to ski, had great instructors, and went on to start competing with the USABA, which is the United States Association for Blind Athletes, which USABA now has the teams for goalball. They still have downhill skiing and various sports, so they train a lot of the para-athletes, Paralympic athletes. So anyway, I got involved skiing that way, and running was just sort of a thing I did on the side. And actually, Christian's great friend Johnny started an activity at our school with what is that called when they ski and then shoot a gun? Biathlon. Thank you. I knew there was biathlon. So he was there doing a presentation, and I met him and got to talking. So he and I started running, and because I talked to him. So that's how that happened. So, does anybody have questions about that?
John, can you tell about one of the times you scheduled an event and worked through it with our staff and employability on Lake Pomona, I believe it was?
Water activities.
Yeah,
the canoeing.
You had the student who organized
Employability program.
canoeing or?
So we took students, for those of you in Madison, you know, or Madison Lake Wingwood is a very small lake where the Madison Zoo is on the lake. And they rent boats, canoes and kayaks and paddle boats. And we took the students there, and that was a lot of fun. Don was a little nervous, but we had some students in the boats, like 2 blind kids together.
And like a 1-to-1 ratio and like that, and but it was.
Yes, it was, yeah. There was, and we did this a couple of years, and a couple of times there were students who were furious, that just did not want to get on a boat, did not want to get in the water. And we gently coerced them, and when they did it, they were thanking us like, wow, I'm so glad I did it. So.
No, I'm jealous. I didn't get to do that.
So I think the moral of that story is sometimes pushing people beyond their comfort zone can really help, you know, growth and things like that, confidence. So.
Dave, a lot of people ask me, and maybe I could let the students speak on this. What kind of issues do they have with other people having a vision impairment that they could help guide their kids through some questions from other kids or criticisms or anything like that, if they've experienced anything that they can help the parents with.
You were like,
I was gonna say, I understand, but I don't understand.
So do you ever get bullied or do you ever get people asking you questions about your vision impairment?
school, we don't, as far as my experience, we don't get bullied. But when I'm in public, I do get asked sometimes I do get asked about specifically my cane. I tell kids, hey, okay, so this is my cane, this is what I use it for. It helps me see better.
From my experience at the School for the Blind, no, there's not a lot of, everybody there kind of has the mentality that, we all have an impairment in one way or another, whether one person's more blind than the other person, doesn't matter. So at the School for the Blind, I would say no, for bullying and stuff, things like that. For my experience in public school, I would say I've definitely had challenges, mainly resource-wise. That was kind of where I was challenged. It wasn't necessarily other students more than the staff. So I would say, yeah, my biggest challenge was always just getting the right resources, and most of those came from WCBBI, which is one of the reasons I'm currently there now.
I don't think we've had as many challenges with like other students, but they do ask like why my eyes move, what my cane is for, and other questions just related. But I think the teachers most likely are like the things we've struggled with the most, with them following my IEP and giving me stuff I need to do.
Your teachers are what?
My teachers, we've sometimes struggled with them not following my IEP and getting me what I need.
Like getting your materials on time,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Well, I don't think, I mean, it could be bullying, but so when I was in 5th grade, so I've had people ask about me being blind, and I'm okay with that. I don't think that's bullying or anything. They can ask, I'm not gonna get offended, but in 5th grade, I was at recess and someone called me blind girl, and that would have been okay, but like they said it in a mean way. And then in 6th grade, people were moving items on my tray, on my lunch tray. They were just moving my like milk and my different foods and stuff. Because I think they thought it would be funny or something like that. And then now I don't really get bullied, but it's just whenever I'm in school, I feel like it's almost an everyday thing because they don't understand why I need a cane, and they always say to their friends like, "Oh, she's trying to trip me," or "Oh, she almost tripped me. She almost tripped my friend earlier." And I think it's like I'm not trying to trip them, but they don't understand what the cane is used for.
And just to kind of add on to the students asking questions about, like, people who ask me about my visual impairment, about my disability, if it's a genuine question, of course, I'm gonna answer it. I'm gladly gonna educate somebody about maybe not even just my condition, but even just the community in general, the blind and visually impaired community in general. But yeah, those questions are extremely frequent. And, why do you have this cane? Why do you read Braille instead of, that's actually a question I've gotten. Why do you read Braille instead of print? Not obvious, I feel like, but, but yeah, that's definitely been a frequent. And then when it comes down to like students moving things around, I have definitely had an experience with that, having people either move something on me. I've had somebody pull a chair out from under me essentially. I've had people like props. I used to do theater at my old school. I'd have people move my stuff around during a performance, and maybe if it wasn't intentional, it just wasn't thought about. But at the same time, I definitely had that experience. But when it comes down to the questions and answer, why do you use the cane? If it's a genuine question, I definitely would answer it willingly.
I'm doing that one.
I get that question, fairly frequently, and, you'll hear a little kid, Mommy, what is that stick Daddy has? And you either have parents that say, shh, and walk away, or you have parents that say, I don't know, why don't we go ask him?
And personally, it's more offensive when they
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So I would much rather have them say, let's go, and then they talk to you, and it's like, no big deal, and then it's like, okay, blind people are, somebody to avoid or something, sends that message.
Yeah, it's a way to educate. As I said, that's why I love answering questions. It's just because it's a way to educate people. It's a way to tell them this is what I go through on a daily basis. This is what some other people go through, and this is how you can either solve or just make life easier a little bit.
And as far as my experience in school, I didn't learn the term self-advocacy when I was in school that I remember. Just, which in my mind is the most important component of the expanding core, which Jesse and Mackenzie did such a great job of presenting on yesterday, all of the various components of the expanding core. But when I was in the resource room, we had elementary school, so it was much smaller. We had the teacher for the blind. So students would see, people using canes. They sometimes would bring a braille writer in the regular ed classroom, so they got exposure to that. When I went into middle school, I went to a school that was 6 through 12. So 7 through 12. So going from 6th grade to a little school into 7th grade of a school of over 3,000 people. It was very intimidating. I was the only BI kid in the school. At that time, I did not use a cane, so I would do everything to hide my blindness and stay inconspicuous. And in those days, I don't think they invented the term PC yet. I was referred to as coke bottles because I wore very thick glasses, and it was a much different experience, and I didn't really have the skills, like I said, self-advocacy skills to educate people and things like that. So I just kind of stayed low key. So I think that's a big difference that I hear a lot with people in public schools versus in school for the blind.
And I do wish that people, especially high school students, were a little bit more educated on disabilities in general, not necessarily just blindness, because coming from me, who I've spent 5-6 years in a public school, where in my school, I was told multiple times, I was like the first blind person in over 15, 20 years, whatever it was. And these kids had no idea why anybody would be carrying around a white cane or why anybody would have lenses, because I used to have glasses like that, the Coke bottle lens glasses. And nobody would ever understand exactly why that was. And, you know, I had to explain to 17, 18, 19-year-olds why I had a cane or why anybody would have a cane, because they just, nobody taught them that. Nobody in school, nobody, their parents didn't tell them that, their teachers didn't tell them that. It was just completely, it was completely new information. And from me, I think about that as, these are the people who are out in the community working, they're driving, they're customer service, they're people who they don't realize. They'll see somebody walking with a cane, say they are customer service, they see somebody walking with a cane, they're not even gonna realize, oh, that person's blind. And, you know, it's kind of, almost, I would say, irritating.
But doesn't that make you the educator?
Yes.
There are some people that don't meet blind people, so I think disability education classes should be added curriculum.
And I always have to remind myself that most people are not being deliberately ill-willed, they just don't know.
Yeah, we are definitely a smaller part of the population as visually impaired people. Yeah, most of the people I know sighted have never met anybody else blind besides me.
All right, let's move on to the next question. So what are some things that lead to success in school and or in your life?
So, elaborate on what you mean by least success.
I'll let you interpret that. Could be tools, it could be things you're doing, things you learned.
So for me, I would say one thing that helps me on my path to success is having the tools that I need to make life a bit easier. And also, when it comes to the school for the blind, if I end up going to college, I'm gonna need those resources. Another thing is, if I'm going to college far away from home, the school has a residential program, staying in dorms away from home. That's also a very good experience for if you're going to be going to college that's far away from home, because you're going to be in the dorms. If you don't have a home already, you're going to be indoors. You might have a roommate. It's a good experience, and also they teach you skills that you would need in life: how to do laundry, washing dishes, things like that, cleaning your room. It's a good way to learn life skills that you otherwise, like if you were, for me, if you were going to a public school, you wouldn't usually get those experiences unless you were at home, in which you might not have certain tools that you need to do what you need to do in life. Whereas if you're at WCB, yeah, you have those tools. You have labeled washing machines, labeled dryers, you have basically everything you need, labeled microwaves, ovens, all of that.
Mr. Ballman, do you mind restating the question?
What are some things that lead to success in school and or in your life?
For me, I was, and I've talked to a couple of people actually here about this in the last couple of days. My huge thing that I stress is in life in general, navigation, mobility, and critical thinking. Being able to break down a situation and use it to your advantage, essentially. So, see if I can elaborate on that. For example, I know a couple of people who they have a more, I would say, more difficult time navigating an unfamiliar area because they have nerves, you know, and that's understandable. They have nerves, they have kind of that, I don't want to get lost kind of mentality. And one thing I've always stress is the critical thinking side of it, because if you're trusting your cane, you're using your ability to just take everything around you, take the sound, take the smell, take the small amount, if you have vision, take the small amount that you can see, break it all down and figure out where you are. Just think about it and figure out your situation. So critical thinking and just mobility skills are huge for success, in my opinion.
Great answer. Thank you.
Success for me is that learning Braille, learning my own web skills, and learning how to use different pieces of technology, because it'll help me at college and it helps me in my day-to-day life at school.
I think that the things that help me be successful are different tools that I have, and then also learning daily living skills. So in my school, it is a public school, but I do have 1 hour of the school day every day, which is a school period is usually like a class period is like 43 minutes. And I use that for a few times a week. I use that school period for learning different independent living skills, such as cooking. And we've done, we're gonna start doing clothing labeling, so making sure like how I know what certain colors clothing is. We've done sweeping, vacuuming, just different things like that that I've practiced. And also, I think things that help me be successful in life are the different tools. So I think that computers and phones with screen readers really help. So screen readers are things like voiceover on a phone, or like computers have certain ones and they read what's on the screen, and that definitely helps. I also use a Braille Note Touch Plus, which is it's basically like a tablet, but it has a keyboard with the 6 dots for a Braille cell, and it also has a Braille display. And then I also like that there are certain apps on phones that can help you, like apps that can navigate things, and apps such as Seeing AI that can help you read things and describe scenes and identify currency and money and stuff like that.
Use it every day. So, the next question is my favorite, since in transition, and we talk a lot in the field, referring to the expanded core again, that students without disabilities learn your reading, writing, math, history, phys ed, all of your general education subjects, but we often say that a student who is blind or visually impaired needs more hours of instruction. And sometimes the more hours leads to an additional year or two of school, like sometimes referred to as 18 to 21 programs, which in a nutshell is basically if somebody completes their academic skills, but decides to stay in school to work on other goals within an IEP. So it could be orientation, mobility, getting employment skills and things like that. So I just can't emphasize how important the expanded core is. So with that in mind, the question is, what are you doing to prepare for transition to adult life, i.e., or what comes after this?
So what I'm doing since I'm senior is I have I'm an orientation and mobility. Learning how to travel on my own is very essential to when I get out of school entirely. So knowing how bus systems work and knowing how street crossings work with my cane or things like that is very important. In addition to that, learning how to use money is also a very important thing. Saving money, all of that. I'm learning all of that. It's important for, of course, after high school. And earlier this year, I took DLS, daily living skills, to learn how to cook with a visual impairment. Not much different than being sighted and learning how to cook. It's just having the knowledge of where things are on a stove or a microwave or a blender. Knowing all of that stuff is a very important thing for when you get out of school, because you're always going to have that help in your life to know, okay, so here's this, here's how it works, and that's it. It's knowing that you can do this on your own when you get out of school.
Mr. Ballman mentioned the 18 to 21 transitional period, and that's currently where I am with the School for the Blind. They have, as I
In our school, it's referred to as
It's,
CCR,
it's here.
from college ready, so.
yeah, career and college readiness, and that's basically, that is the school's 18 to 21 program. And I'm currently kind of what Elias said, working on mobility and a lot of daily living skills, a lot of dependent living skills, cooking, it's, just things like that. Yeah, that's kind of my answer. It's just basically mobility and daily living skills.
Thank you.
We've been working on cooking through a individual children through the blind school. And I've also worked on finding college resources with my TBI. And next year we'll be working on computer skills.
So I've been working on, in my school, during the one class period that I have every day, my resource period. Some days I work on cooking. Some days I work on like daily living skills, independent living skills, things. Other days, like we practice with, computers and using screen readers on computers to navigate Microsoft Word or the web, and things like that. And then I also have orientation and mobility. And this year we have worked on a lot of things like navigating stores, self-advocacy with talking to people at a store, like talking to workers to ask where things are in a store. We've also practiced with cabs, taking a cab and getting a ride, like, calling a cab and things like that. Yeah, things like that.
All right, I have a follow-up question, and then I have more question, then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. We have about 15 minutes left, so I was hoping that you guys would touch on this, but what are you doing, like more after high school? Or do you have plans for going on to school, for any type of training, for career goals, anything like that?
So that's pretty much what the college and career readiness program is going to help us decide, is whether we want to go to college and go back to school for a few years or go straight into the workforce. Currently, I have plans to see what I want to do. I don't know if I want to go to college or if I want to go straight into the workforce. I definitely want to get a job. But the CCR program at school is definitely going to help determine which way I want to go.
And the CCR program is, it is definitely it is definitely a beneficial program. They are, for me, I'm planning on going straight into the workforce. And through the CCR program, they've assisted me with finding contacts and resources, whether it's for employment, just for BVI resources in general. But that's one really nice thing, just to kind of touch on the CCR program a little bit, is that for college students, they pay for your classes, your courses while you're in that program. So students who go to UW Rock County or to Blackhawk Tech, those two colleges are pretty nearby the school, their courses are being paid for. But my plans as of right now are go straight into the workforce. After this year, I have my high school credentials as of this end of the first semester this year, and I will be graduating in June.
My plan is to go to college. I don't know exactly what for. I still have 2 years to figure it out. But my goal is to go to college and then have my own job and live not in my mom's basement.
Oh, is that last year? That's a good goal. That's a well, is that last year? You said something about 30 years yesterday.
So I have been looking at different colleges because I do want to go to college after. Well, I've been thinking about like after school, like maybe not going, like doing all my classes right away, but maybe working more on like orientation and mobility, or maybe doing like daily living skills work, or like maybe some other stuff after I'm a senior, but I definitely want to go to college. I want to be, I want to go to school to be a teacher for the visually impaired.
So my last question kind of gets at the heart of what this conference is about, I think. And I think that I've met so many awesome families and little ones these last couple of days. And I think that I think you guys would probably all agree that the first day you got here, there's a little anxiety, and it's probably the reason why you're here, because you have lots of questions. And but I guess I would say everybody's going to do great because you're here, because you're asking those questions, you're looking for the answers. We talked a lot about high expectations the last couple of days, so. With that in mind, my last question is, what would you tell a parent, grandparent, sibling, or teacher of a young blind or visually impaired child as a way of encouragement?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I would probably say is, hold on. I'll let Panthers go first.
No worries. God help any parents who listen to me. I guess as as a starter, so I've talked to a few families over the last 2 days. And a lot of questions, a lot of really good questions. So yeah, you guys are, I agree with Mr. Ballman, you guys are doing the right thing. You're getting the answers you need to help your child. So I definitely agree with that part. As what I would say is I probably attest to this, it's not gonna be easy. And it's probably not gonna be fun all the time. Because we are in reality living in a sighted world. And there's a lot of things that are not made for your visually impaired child. But there's always a resource that you can use for another. So like I guess, word of encouragement is that there's always a path and there's always a way to do something, and it might have to be without vision, it might have to be 10 times harder, but it does not mean you can't do it. As a person who kind of grew up in a sighted world as a blind person, it just because everybody else has vision, just because it looks like, or it sounds like, I guess, you can't do it. Just because you're blind does not mean it holds you back from what you want to do. It just might take a little bit longer to get there.
That's basically what I was gonna say.
All I want to recognize, thank you for being so candid, Ethan. I think that, I'm not a parent, so, but I think that I can fairly say that there's gonna be challenges, raising any child, whether they're blind or not blind. With saying that, I don't want to belittle the blindness aspect, that there definitely are challenges, but just thank you for addressing that.
Yeah. And I apologize, I'm gonna say this last thing real quick. I would say if you come across a challenge, I keep saying the word resource, because there are so many of them out there. I was talking to families yesterday. There's websites, for example, the Wisconsin Council for the Blind. You can keep up with a lot of things with Congress. You can buy different stuff from their stores. They have a newsletter. You can use that as a resource. Use things like hadleyhelps.org. There's so many different websites, and all it is just a Google search away, or even call your local, or not local, your state center. If you have questions that you can't find the answer to, every state has a center for the blind that you can get a hold of just by, once again, a quick Google search away.
Yep. Yes.
I was gonna, I have my, so as a visually impaired person, I know a lot of blind and visually impaired people that don't do what I do. I play video games as a visually impaired person, and I've got a few friends that do as well. This will lead into what I'm about to say. Don't let blindness be a barrier for anyone. So for parents, let your kids do what they want to do. I'm not saying to let them just go free. I'm saying if your kid wants to try something that's within reason, let them do it. If they want to try, for example, I don't know, if they want to try painting or sculpting or doing some sort of art, let them try it. If they want to, if your child has degenerative vision, let them do some things that sighted people can do, so that they can still have that experience when they become blind. They're already gonna know how to do it. They're just gonna have to find new ways to do that thing. A phrase that I hear a lot, and I use this a lot, is don't let your disability be a barrier. Because no matter what, there's always going to be things you can and can't do. And a good way to learn that for me, the way I learned it was actually going to WCBTI. Having that connection to people that would have the same problems that I do and are still living normal lives it's a great experience because you know that, hey, I'm not alone in this world. There's other people that are like me that may want to do the same thing as me. So it's good to know those people and to have those connections to other blind and visually impaired kids.
But it will be possible. There's a lot of things you can like buy online to help make things adaptable, but you also can like create your own.
I would say that like, kind of like the same things everyone else has been saying, like, there are challenges and there are things that you're gonna have to get past, or that maybe as a parent, you have to maybe help your child get past, or, but like things like that, but I think, I also say the same thing, it's like, I think it's good to have connections with other visually impaired kids, even if they might not have the same disability as the child. I mean, it does help, like, if they did have the same disability, then, but like, even if, like, disability or like, condition or like vision impairment, to me, that's not what matters. It just matters that, like, it matters to me that I know someone who is visually impaired, even if they don't have the same amount of vision as me, because then sometimes, like, there's, like, it's still good to know that, like, there's other people that are visually impaired, no matter if they have the same diagnosis or not. Like, there's people that are visually impaired, and I also, like, I know that maybe life, like, or certain parts of life and doing things, like, may be challenging or scary, or, I've gotten anxious about things because, like, I don't want to maybe get lost, or sometimes I'm afraid of being on my own. But it's also helpful to have maybe an adult to talk to about, like, no matter if you're a parent or a child or an adult, but to have an adult to talk to, or even maybe an older kid that is visually impaired, because they can definitely give a lot of advice and a lot of helpful advice to help do things and about certain resources and stuff.
And I actually, she mentioned like the stress, your child, just like anybody else, is they're going to come down every now and then. They're going to be down on themselves. And this is just, I feel like something that a lot of blind people do. It's something that I've done. It's something I still do. It is just getting down and kind of being in that little, oh, I can't do this. Just, I'm blind. I can't do that. Well, instill the I can do it mentality. Instill that in your kid. Instill it and just make sure it's hammered in. I can do it. Just because that visual impairment is there doesn't mean it's a barrier. So yeah, there's definitely going to be stressful times, and just to be able to sit down with your kid and say, hey, it's difficult, but let's find a way to do it.
want to thank all four of you. Guys, Ethan, and me, and everybody for listening. We're kind of out of time. I was hoping that we'd have time for questions. Do we have another 5 minutes or?
I messed up the time on Sunday. We have like a half hour between this session and the Q&A with outreach staff. Anybody has, subjects they want to talk to outreach about. So if you guys have questions that you want to answer or ask the panel, please,
Please do.
that's it, that's huge, that's really important, so.
I agree.
You don't get this chance often, and don't get afraid.
Of course, you Judge.
Oh, we got one. Okay.
I don't really have a question, but something that, as a parent of a blind child in a school with a blind, can you guys talk a little bit about how you do your transportation and stuff? Because that was something that was not real clear to me. Until very recent, I was very, I guess I was scared to send my kid away to a school and not be able to get to them or them to me, and so.
You know what, that is normal. The way transportation works is, we take the bus to the school on Sundays and we go back home on Fridays. But that does not stop communication. That the school has phones that if your child wants to ask a staff member, hey, can I call mom? Or if you want to contact the school and say, hey, can I talk to my kid? That is an absolute opportunity. You can do that. And sometimes, if you feel, sometimes you might not get a call, but sometimes that's okay because then your kid is having a good time. Trust me, when I first went to the school, I would call my mom a few times, but as I got older and got to know the school better, I realized, hey, I'm okay here, and I'll get to see my mom on weekends.
Can I address that just for, I think I know what you're asking. Hi, I'm Amy. I'm a assistive technology person, but I know a little bit about the transportation. I don't think Maria is here to address it. So what happens is there are different routes that go to different parts of the state. So all of the bus routes start out in Janesville, like theoretically here. Let's just kind of go from that angle. And we have a route that goes to the Wausau area. We have a route that goes to the Milwaukee area. We have another route that goes to other different parts of the state. And then we also, believe it or not, we have a plane that flies. If you're north of a certain area, you get a plane. And then what happens is each of those bus routes has specific stops along their route that you will be asked to meet your child, or your district will be asked to provide transportation to your child for your child from that point to home. And the same way in the reverse when they're going back to Janesville on Sunday. So there is a transportation coordinator. I bet Mrs. Soto knows him very well. They're married. So he kind of helps organize the route. We have our dorm people or make sure that the kids get on the bus and get off the bus and have everything they need. It's very, very organized because it has to be. And when weather happened, we were very communicative about, hey, we're pretty proactive. And we're going to have a little bit of an ice storm on Friday. Let's send the kids back on Thursday. So, it's very well organized, and I'm sure that if you had any questions, they'd be able to answer that. Did that address your question?
Yeah, I just wanted parents to know that was an option. I didn't know it was an option at first. And it's
Yeah.
something that actually kept me from sending my son because we were 2 hours away. And so knowing that there was that transportation option and that he got to come home every week, it made it a lot easier to let him go.
Yeah. So when, just touching on the separate routes, a good example would be this weekend where I would typically take the Wisconsin Dells route, which goes up through Madison, past the Dells, and then my drop off point is Boston, Wisconsin. To get here, I took what is actually the Green Bay route, and that's, yeah, and they have different state routes. The plane flies, actually, one of the students in from the Green Bay area. For what reason, I'm not exactly sure, but yeah. Are there any others?
Question to it is, what's the scariest experience you've ever had, or the things that you fear the most being blind?
Honestly, the scariest experience I have ever had, I don't have full blindness, but I can say I've had a blindfold on. The scariest experience I've ever had is running through a wall. Be honest, it's going to be honest. Other than that, it's being out in the open, but that's mainly because of my skin color. I'm not afraid to be out in the open most of the time. It's like, it's not a big experience for me, but you guys probably talk about that. Good.
Yeah, the scariest experience. I honestly, I learned a lot of stuff through trial and error. So, I've had quite a few experiences. I think one of the more, terrifying experiences was, the outreach program that is heading this up essentially. They do programs over the summer at the School for the Blind. And one of those programs is a 5-week employability program, which Mr. Ballman actually heads up and directs. So what happens is they give you 5 weeks, as I said, 2 weeks for training, and then 3 weeks you work a part-time job. So during the part of the program where I had a part-time job, I was making my way back to the bus stop to head back to the school, and crossing a 3-lane intersection. My cane hit. I had a what's known as a marshmallow tip on my cane at the time. It hit a crack in the road, flew out of my hand. There's a car sitting directly behind or directly to my right, and there's one that's coming down the next lane. So most people's first reaction, and this was definitely mine, most people's first reaction is, holy crap. Oh gosh. So I managed to get across naturally. I'm still here, I think.
We're able to buy your
I think.
leave your kid.
Oh, no, I unfortunately, that's where the critical thinking thing that I was talking about earlier comes in, where most people would immediately panic, which is my reaction. I immediately panicked, but you have to have the ability to slow that nerve down, slow that panicking process down, which is kind of what I attempted to do, and be able to think through it. That car sitting to my right was not going to go anywhere. It was stationary when I started crossing. It was not moving. Whereas the one that was still on its way, it was going to stop because of the light. So naturally, technically, I was not in any danger, and I had to realize that. I had to step back and go, okay, I'm fine, lean down, pick up your cane, keep walking. And the scary part, I guess, for me about that is that I would hate for that to happen in any other situation, especially on any other busier intersection, because I kind of got lucky there. But yeah, that was definitely a terrifying experience.
I feel like terrifying experiences, walking, and I hear people talking, but I don't know like where they're talking. And I just kind of freak out that they're following me. Or that when there's like, you hear dogs barking, can't tell if they're on a leash or not. So sometimes I'm like scared they're gonna start chasing me.
One of like some of the things that have scared me, I really shouldn't have really been scared. I guess I wasn't scared, it was more like anxiety, but things like taking a cab by myself, even though I knew that my orientation and mobility teacher would be meeting me at the store that I was taking a cab to. But I was just really scared to get on a cab by myself. It turned out the driver was actually really nice, but I was, I was scared to, do that myself. I was scared, I'm also scared sometimes or more anxious when it comes to self-advocacy. So that was also like telling the cab driver to, asking her to tell me where the doors were from when I got out of the cab. Or things like, maybe at school, asking for the resources I need or, stuff like that. And none of this, like, I haven't had to cross any streets on my own or anything, but sometimes I get scared about that, like, what if I get lost, or what if I cross a street and then a car goes in the street, or I accidentally go in a parallel street. It's like, I feel like I'm doing good on the streets right now, but I just feel like what'll happen when I get older and there's no one with me.
Mobility is definitely nerve-wracking.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a lot
Experience, yeah, generally the more confident you get.
Yeah, that's coming from somebody who lives in Madison. I'll take it.
Well, the scariest time of year for a blind person is the winter, like when you're walking.
Agreed.
Ice is a dangerous thing.
Well, even snow.
Even, I was gonna say, even snow, trying to use a cane in the snow is.
Oh,
Well, you're hearing enough to lose the sidewalks, so it can't work.
And people don't shovel.
Yeah, that's a huge one. When people don't shovel their sidewalks, I've had to deal with that at least 6 times this year.
Other parent questions?
Okay.
Go for it.
When you are out in public alone, would you appreciate people approaching you and asking if you need help, or would you prefer to be the one who asks it when you need it?
I would probably prefer asking when I need it. For a lot of people, they sometimes, from what I know, will find when people ask if they need help to not be helpful. Because we can ask when we need help, when we need it.
I agree with that. For me personally, I do, a lot of times, I don't have enough vision. I mentioned this earlier, I do not have enough vision to see who's in front of me or things such as that. So having somebody, if I'm in a position where I'm not sure where to go or what to do, it is nice to have somebody walk up and ask. I'm gonna put emphasis on ask. Because a lot of times that's where the irritating part comes in, is where, say, you're standing on a street corner, you're about to cross, and somebody wants to be extra helpful, and I know there's some blind people who can't see this, but somebody wants to be extra helpful and be, hey, I'll help you out, I'll give you,
No, thanks.
yeah.
I can do this on my own.
A lot of people like to overstep. And instead of just asking, do you need help? They will, I've had people grab me, I've had people try to be over helpful, and that is scary. When you don't know why you're being grabbed, that is horrifying for, for obvious reasons. So I would say definitely walking up and asking somebody, do you need help, or do you know where you're going, or are you're good here? That's perfectly acceptable. Being just don't do anything without permission, because
That'll get blind people irritated.
it's irritation, and it so I believe it or not, I know blind people who carry mace. Have fun.
But if you're standing there, like you can come up and ask, do you need like directions? So if like a sighted person is sitting on the road, maybe like looking at their Google Maps, you would maybe do the same and ask if they need any directions. But if we're like doing fine, you don't need to like come up and see if you need help.
I think it's okay if people ask if you need help. Like for me, I feel like, I mean, I don't know, because my self-advocacy skills do need work, but I feel like if, like when I'm older, if I were to know that someone was near me, then I feel like I might try to like find them and ask them to help me. But I feel like, especially because some blind people have less vision than others, it'd be appropriate to go up to them and ask for help, or ask if they need, like, to go up to them and ask if they need help, because they might not know where you are to ask for help on their own. So if you ask if they need help, I think that is totally fine, but yeah, I agree with like I don't think it's appropriate to grab them or maybe even like take their hand out of nowhere, just grab them.
Which sounds like it would be common sense, but it doesn't seem to be sometimes.
Yeah, because that is like, I know some people are trying to be helpful, but I feel like it would be more appropriate to ask if they need help, because grabbing them then, because some of them can't see, and they can't see a lot, and they don't know why they're being grabbed.
You do that to a child on the street, there's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, and
If you do that to a kid, don't do it to an adult.
I think that Mackenzie is absolutely right when she says, if you see a person with a white cane and they're just making their way down the sidewalk or down the road, or they don't, if they don't look lost or if they don't look out of the ordinary, don't, unless you have a specific question for them, I wouldn't bother them. If they are, if they're just standing there kind of looking around, just kind of a little bit confused, and it is perfectly acceptable to walk up and just say, hey, are you okay? Do you need help?
I have a question to kind of go along with that, but from the perspective of not necessarily strangers, but your own family, maybe your parents, maybe younger, older siblings, cousins, aunts, or uncles. I'm Evie's mom, and for the most part, I try to always do sighted guide and let you just be in control of that. I know, however, there have been moments where I'm in a hurry and maybe I probably grab you the wrong way. Actually like grab you instead of letting you take my arm. Is how much if that does happen to any of you, Evie, I know it does to you occasionally. How much does that bother you? And do you speak up to your family when it happens? So it doesn't happen, because. Yeah.
I'd say it depends on the situation. Sometimes I have experience with this. I'll be with a family member and we're walking and I have no idea where we're going, and I'll veer off in a different direction. And that's the point where sometimes I might need guide to get back to where we need to be. So for me, it's just when we don't know where we're going, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I definitely have some experience with that, whether it's from friends, one of my siblings, or even my mom. But I think the only time it's really, if I'm walking down the sidewalk and there's a low hanging branch that I'm about to run into, it is definitely a helpful thing to just grab kind of the back, maybe my shoulder or whatever, which is something my mom does. She'll grab the back of my arm and kind of pull me to the side if she doesn't have time to say something before I run into it. So that is acceptable. I would say if you're just in a hurry and you're kind of, I guess, you like overreacting is the way to say it. If you're in a hurry and you're trying to get somewhere fast and you just grab somebody and start walking, no, that's infuriating. That is extremely irritating, but, yeah, I definitely agree that it does depend on the situation.
I feel like my family grounding me would be like, it'd be easier to like be okay with it, because it's like my family and I know them more personally than a random stranger.
The way I feel about it is, I mean, I say that, like, it's not, like, if you're in a hurry and if it is family, I'd say like, you know, it's fine, like, it should be more sighted guide or maybe like following someone's voice, like you become this way or whatever, but like, I mean, I feel like it's okay, it's just, and I usually always know that it is my family who would be grabbing me, like someone from my family, but maybe like, especially if there's more people around or something like that, it'd be appropriate to, like, I feel like if someone were to grab me, to say like who it is, so I know that it is my family, or to start talking so that like hopefully I recognize their voice. But I feel like, yeah, depending on the situation, like, because usually the appropriate thing to do is sign and guide, or maybe following someone's voice if you're visually impaired. But if you're in a hurry, I would say it's okay if it's your own family. You just need, it's just appropriate for the family member to probably tell you who it is.
And I would say sighted guide in general is, I personally don't think you should be depending on it, in my opinion. But I understand the nerve, given that I am still working on my cane skills. I'm still working on getting comfortable with that myself. So I understand where people come from, but I think sighted guide is definitely overused, so to speak. But yeah, with the whole in a hurry thing, I think my biggest irritation is once again just being grabbed out of nowhere, kind of, let's go, you know, instead of, we're walking out the door, come on, follow me, you know, that works too.
We're all at different skill levels, different levels of confidence. Somebody said if you're in a hurry. When I was completely blind, I was 27 and didn't have a lot of good O&M skills, and it took a while to get there. So when I was with family and friends, I typically would go to sight and guide, but I learned that I didn't have the feeling of being in control then. And an example is that I was with a friend somewhere where it was really busy. Okay, it was Summerfest. It was very busy, and my friend said, "Oh, just stay right here, I'll be right back." I forget what he's doing. And I'm standing there and I realized, okay, I'm not even by a wall, and there's just like herds of people walking by, and I was like so uncomfortable. And after that, that was kind of a turning point where I started carrying a cane, and it's like, oh, where do you have your cane? It's like, I just feel better. I'm in more control of the situation. Realize that if somebody does walk away from you and you need to go sit down or go to the bathroom or whatever, you have that option to do that. So, but I mean, mobility is such a person-specific thing that, you know, like I said, skill level, confidence level, things like that. So, but I think to really address that question, I think it can be difficult for a family member If you're used to going to sighted guide all the time, and then maybe you're learning things in school, if you're orientation mobility, you want to be more independent, but it's just kind of like status quo on the sighted guide. I think that sometimes it might be hard to say, like, why did you decide my own?
Hey, can I make input real quick?
Yes,
Okay, first of all, even if you depend upon sighted guide, and especially if you depend upon sighted guide, use your cane at the same time. Please, sighted guides are wonderful things, but they don't always look to the side. They're looking in front of them.
Agreed.
And sometimes entirely unintentional, you're gonna run into something because they're looking at something else. Use your cane.
I have sighted guides who will be, well, I call them quote unquote sighted guides because they'll be on their phone. So it's walking and texting, it's great, anyway. So I'm not gonna unfold it, but for those of you who can't see, I always carry my cane straight up. Just making sure that my left side or whatever, my right side, if I usually take sighted guide on the right. So, using my cane in my left hand, it's always held up to guard my left side. Cause yes, there is so many different times and I can't count how many times throughout my life where I've been sideswiped or slammed directly into something because that person looked down for 2 seconds, or they looked over here because they heard somebody else or whatever, So,
And the second thing I'm gonna do is answer the question over here that you were sort of asking in the background about helping people.
can I just say one more thing about, you became sighted guide with family?
Yeah.
Remember though, we talked one of the sessions yesterday about, that, like, sometimes it's easier to do things for a child. When you're going sighted guide, you're not experiencing things that are around you. You're not, feeling for curves and things like that. So even with young children, if you have the time to just let them explore a little bit, they're learning things by using their cane. And, sometimes that discovery can be really important. And it's, there's times, we gotta get to school, let's set a guide, we gotta get in, we're late or whatever, but there's other times where, just to allow them that discovery, that's huge.
When you asked about how you can help people, please remember that it's always good to ask. Everybody said that. On the other end of that statement, no pun intended, is that you may be the ninth person that's asking. And I'm doing fine. And I said no thank you to the first 8. And you start feeling like there's a sign on your back that says, please ask this person if you can help them. So at some point, we may get tired of being asked and be less kind to you than we should be. But I can remember changing planes in Chicago, but by the time the 8th or 9th person asked me if I was sure I could get on the moving sidewalk, and I just come off of 3 of them beforehand, and it was midnight and I was tired, I wasn't too kind. But please understand that it's okay to ask, but also be sure you understand that you have to be willing to take no for an answer. And then, if they wander off in the wrong direction, it's not your fault.
Yeah, again, I often have to remind myself because they all get frustrated, but it's like their meetings are well, they're good intentions, but treat people with respect. So it's.
yeah.
So we are at a half hour past, and yes.
the summer employability program and Ethan and Alliance, I think what another thing where it can be impossible to think about when your child is young, and we've got our new orientation and mobility specialist who work on that independent travel piece. But we do have parents sign when they come for employability just last year, right? Where we said, the parents sign and say, I will allow my child to independently travel, learn that route to and from their job. So Elias and Ethan, if you have any input you might want to share about how you learned that independent travel, and I mean, had you really done that before? Had you taken a bus completely on your own to and from a place on your job on your own?
Well, I will first start off by saying, don't be afraid to let your kid travel on their own when they get older. I'll also continue to say, I have done independent travel a lot. And when I first did it, I was very unsure. But the more I did it, the more it got easier. And I'm gonna be honest, a bit more fun. Because that basically told me, hey, I don't have to be afraid of this anymore. I can continue to do this and be totally fine.
I would say for me, it was really, and it's still like, I'm still learning the navigation part of things. The outdoor mobility side of things, I guess. But for that program specifically, like getting from the campus, from the school to my job, it's one of those things where I just took a lot of time to explore every single little detail of the route. You know, there was one point where the sidewalk would curve and it would be so slight that most people most people would not even think about it. But I would use that and be like, okay, I'm still 3 driveways away from where I need to turn, or whatever, I would just use every little detail I could find, and I think that's really the key to navigation and mobility, is just trying to make sure you have all the information, because those landmarks, those small details that seem so, I think the word is minuscule to other people, they mean so much to the tip of the cane. It means so much to just figuring out that where to turn next, where to go, where, all of that.
Which is why, if you're walking through a mall or something, people are like, oh, look out, you're gonna walk in the garbage can. I'm like, no, I'm not. My cane's gonna hit it. I'm gonna turn.
Exactly. That is something that a lot of parents and a lot of friends, a lot of siblings need to realize. That is what the cane is for.
Exactly.
You are supposed to use it to tap stuff, to possibly maybe run into something, but the cane is made to be your eyes. It's not you. That's why you have it. That's why a lot of times I will have people say, oh, watch out, pull me out of the way before my cane can touch. I'm like, my cane is 5 feet long. It will touch that trash can before I do.
Well, but don't forget that sometimes with ink miss things. And
Yeah.
bump into it first before a game, you can figure that, oh, it's there.
And that happens too.
I've seen that many
I
times.
see those branches over here.
Yeah, which is, once again, I always have my hand up here or down here, depending on where I'm walking, for those of you who can.
So, yeah, I want to thank you four. I really want to thank families. I think that we had some really good discussions. I will say this, that you guys will have more questions, and that's a good thing. And I think I can fairly say that all of us here are open to answering questions. Of course, these questions, feel free to ask us, get in touch with us. Is that how you're going to learn? And yeah, thank you, everybody.